So, uh, more than it being I, what was that? I think, therefore I am. Uh, Instead of it being in that way, I think, uh, I think maybe it's better to say that I am, and therefore I think. Now, what do I exactly mean by that? Well, to begin with, what I want to say is this: that because there is something. Okay, I'm just saying. Okay, I don't know what I'm really saying. Um, well, to begin with, um, I am making these videos for a particular reason, and the reason being that my general tendency has been that I have developed a certain kind of block, both physically as well as mentally, I would say. Well, uh, if I think about it, I mean, I don't really keep much of a distinction between uh, the mental and the physical because I think that somewhere down the line they both are, significantly interconnected, and they are pretty much the same thing. I mean, it won't be wrong to say that the physical and the mental are in fact one and the same thing. So, what I the, the reason why I'm making these videos is with the hope that maybe my mind will open up. Just now I saw a particular quote, which not a quote exactly, but just a post with you know with letters with words on it, and there was one thing that the post said which I really liked, which I really appreciate. It said that the difference between anxiety and trust, right? So anxiety says that oh, I don't know, I don't, I'm afraid of the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. I need to know everything. I need all the information. But trust says that hold on, we'll figure it out. That's the idea of trust. And I think more than anything, of course we might end up making mistakes. We might do things. Uh, See, I think the most important thing is that first and foremost, is that we just need to have this one principle, and the principle should be that we will not harm people. That's just it. What it basically suggests is that when we know that something is going to be harmful to people, something is going to harm people, then we're not going to do it. Then we're not going to remove ourselves from it. But we cannot always know this, right? Like I think I have a fear of many times I hold myself back because I feel that I hurt people or I might end up hurting people. Because many times it's happened that the decisions that I've made didn't turn out right, or uh, probably some of my relationships, you know, of different nature, relationships of different nature have uh, become sour because the fact that I probably did something. Now the point is that you cannot know things beforehand. Of course, you need to have. That's what I'm saying. That just have the principle that yes, you don't want to hurt people, and when if you have that principle, I'm sure that you will not be hurting people. Or if I have to talk about myself, then I will not be hurting anybody. If I live by that principle, like say for example, I know that corruption is bad. I know that stealing money is bad, or I know that hitting someone is bad, or I know that you know abusing someone is bad. Now, if I keep these things in mind and I don't engage in myself in these things, then I think that I will be doing a good thing. I will be living by my principles. But at the same time, having said all that, I mean, there might be some times when there might be something which probably we may end up doing, which inadvertently hurt someone, or which was not intended, but it does hurt anyway. So in that kind of a situation, we can only try to reverse it. We can try to fix it, and that's how I feel that's the way to move forward in such situations. And that's the whole point here, that there is no perfection. I mean, most of the time, see, what is perfection? Again, by perfection, what do I really mean? By perfection, the thing is that we always keep chasing things. Like, oh, it has to be like this, or oh, I need that. Should I buy this bag, or will this bag be good? The thing is that I mean, see, you cannot have all the information with you at any at one single moment. If I have to talk about from my own experiences so far, I think you sometimes you remember things, sometimes you forget about them, sometimes you recall them, and then you again forget about them. So that's the point. I mean, you cannot really be 100% sure. You cannot have all the information with you. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's just, but yeah, like I said, I mean, all you need to do is have a certain principle, and you live by those principles. So when you have a principle, I mean, so that is the whole point. I mean, let's say, for example, if, like I said, I mean, that if I have lived by the principle that I don't want to hurt people, then obviously, I will abstain from things which are harmful for people. And when I say that, oh, I don't want to hurt people, then maybe also this also comes into play, that I don't want to also take hurt myself. I also want to take care of myself, because I am somebody who believes in peace, or I believe in a certain kind of pacifism. So what I will do is that I will also take care of myself. You know, so there. I mean, what I'm basically trying to say is that we need to. What happens is that when information is not present, you know, then what is important is that you live by those principles. I mean, today, in this day and age, today, I mean, this year is 2023, and today is the 18th of August. Okay, so we're past the midpoint of this year, and we are very much technologically, like, we're surrounded by so much of information and so many things, and I mean, we're technologically rich, if not anything else. At least I am. I mean, I know probably there are a lot of people in the world who still don't have access to the internet, maybe, who still don't have a proper source of information. But again, even with the internet, even if you have access to the internet, what becomes all the more crucial is that there is a certain organization to it. You cannot have all the information. Uh, you cannot simply just or let's say, for example, if I read something, read a text, or read information, or watch a movie, or watch a documentary, or anything, there will be certain takeaways, right? I cannot remember everything. So that is how I think everything works. I mean, I would say that I've been driving. I learned driving actually in the year 2020, and if someone asks me, I think I drive better today over all these years. I mean, in between there was the pandemic, so I wasn't really in practice for, let's say, about of those 3 years that I know driving. I think maybe about a year or so I have not driven anywhere. Maybe not, yeah, or it may have not been very regular. My driving may not have been very regular. Now, the thing is that mm, but the thing now the question that I want to ask is that when did I become a good driver, or when did I even become a driver? Right? I remember so many different occasions where I fumbled. You know, I remember so many different. I remember this one point when I was learning how to drive, and I was on my own. My trainer, my instructor, he just got off the car and told me to just go ahead and make a turn and come back. Now, while doing that, I think there was this uh, some rubbles and stuff. I mean, there were potholes and stuff, and the road was not very very clear and not very clean. And what happened was that, you know, I just, um, you know, my car stopped there, you know, and I was like, I got out of the car. I was trying to wonder what really happened, why I'm not able to start. But you know, all these things, you know, like keeping the balance, you know, like because I'm driving a manual car, I also learned a manual car. So what happens is that when you're driving a manual car, when you're learning on a manual car, what happens is that you need to, you know, leave your feet off the pedal, the clutch pedal, which is, I don't know what it's called in other countries, but in, I guess, in British English, and in India, I mean in Indian English, it's known as clutch pedal. So when you try to lift off your feet after, you know, putting the gear in place, you know, you try to lift your feet off the clutch pedal. You have to do it a bit gently, you know, and also at the same time, you know, press on the accelerator a little bit so that, you know, it takes, you know, it catches on the momentum. So there are a lot of things that way which I have to say that I pretty much struggled, right? But because of the fact that I have, you know, in whatever way possible, I've been, you know, learning it, or I've been driving, and so, you know, I think I am a better driver. Again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, even the whole thing about driving is that there's a certain risk involved in the act of driving itself. But I think uh, regardless of that, you know, you just gotta drive. You just got to move. You just gotta, you know, keep going. So I think that's the whole kind of thing. And my attempt to make all these videos and stuff is also some kind of that. I think uh, a while ago I was watching this old documentary, old by I mean, I mean, time. It's released, I think, in 2005, maybe, or 2004. It was shot around 2004, three, something like that. And it's about Shah Rukh Khan, you know, who's a popular actor in the South Asian sort of context, if you think about that. I mean, and also maybe in the Middle East. I mean, he's very popular, and also and other places similar. So there's this diasporic, you know, thing that really admires and really appreciates him. Uh, so he says this thing, you know, he talks about this thing that, you know, that that living this kind of a life, because he says that, you know, he came from a background when he lived a time in his life when he was not popular, but now he is um, a popular, or he, you know, he is like, you know, one of the best, one of the most popular people out there. So what he says is that, you know, he says that, you know, that, you know, he has this three layers of himself within him, in the sense that, you know, there's this individual, that personal person, the personal him, then there's this actor him, and then there's also the star him, you know, which is basically, probably you can say that the actor him is his professional sort of version of him, while the star him is like a an image that he carries with him. You know, when he meets fans, he, even if it's not essentially working, he still is a public figure, and people know him, and people come up to him, people talk to him. So, you know, that kind of way. So I think I I think when I hear I think when I reflect on what he said, I think that I guess that is what I think working is all about. You know, I don't know about fame. I cannot speak about fame, but to put it very simply, I mean, you know, doing something, working on something, you know, being diligent about something, being passionate about something. I think that essentially narrows down to, you know, it being that, you know, you're kind of, you know, giving up on yourself, giving up on your limitations, you know, because when you give up on your limitations, when you give up on set beliefs and set ideas, and like I said, I mean, you know, the anxieties and the pressures, and so on and so forth, when you give up on those things, it is only then that you actually become relieved and actually, you know, realize uh, a certain kind of potential within yourself, right? You have to sort of increase your benchmarks, you have to increase your sort of circle that you are in. And because I think, you know, if you continue to be surrounded by your limitations, if you continue to be surrounded by your limited perception and stuff, what will happen is that you will not be able to necessarily grow, right? You will always, I mean, small things will appear big to you, and so on and so forth. So I think the fear is a very paradoxical thing if you think about it. Fear, what it does, I mean, at one point it does feel like, and I think that is the art. That's where the art of living, you can say, that kind of comes into play. What happens is that many of times what happens is that when we talk about it, you know we have a certain kind of like, oh, this it's better if I do it this way, if I do it that way. A lot of thoughts, a lot of things keep coming up, uh, which it feels like it serves a purpose. It feels like it's trying to protect you. But at the same time, what happens is that when you look at it, it also maybe is the reason why you're not probably starting. So you have to find a balance in that. You have to be in that art, and I think that is where I think the idea of the flow state comes into play, right? I think most of the people are able to do what they're able to do is because they're able to get into that flow state, get into that state of mind. Like, for me, right now, I'm speaking here, I'm making this video. This is fun for me. I kind of enjoy this. It's like an unloading of all the things that I keep thinking, or all the sort of information that I've gathered over all these times of my life. It's almost like a way of sort of getting it out of my system, getting it expressed in front of the people, in front of whoever might be watching me. So that is way that in that way, it, it it's an outlet for me. So what I'm saying is that it's important to enter into that flow state. Because flow state is very, because most of the time what happens is that we put up all these restrictions. You know, because I mean, I don't know the exact science of things, but when I when I don't know the exact science of things, but for the sake of simplicity, I would like to use these three terms, which are these, id, ego, and the superego. So what basically, I mean, in simple terms, what these three words mean, I think it was Freudian. Maybe I'm not really sure right now who really coined all these terms. Maybe I'll have to take a look at it. Um, but I mean, what I understand by these three terms, id, ego, and superego, are that superego is like this, like the bigger authority, the outside brain, sort of, like, for example, let's say, for example, we know that, oh, we shouldn't be doing this thing, or we know that, oh, we shouldn't be doing that thing, right? Because let's say, for example, so what others impress upon us, or what a certain authority imposes upon us, is what is superego, while ego is the most sort of is inner, unhinged sort of part of us, which is like, sometimes we have indulgences and stuff like that, which are not really, we would say, not really reflective of society, or we'd say that it's not, you know we would like to keep them hidden, or we'd like to practice them on our own, alone, or maybe with a bunch of friends. It could be anything, it could be a lot of things. So an ego, the human ego, it basically tries to act as this mediator between the id, and which is a lot of people say, which is kind of like subconscious or whatever, and the superego. You know, sometimes we try to push the benchmark, sometimes we try to not push the benchmark, sometimes we try to limit ourselves. But I think the most important thing of all is to find your flow. And when you find your flow, you just exercise that. Keep doing that. And that is, I think, when people say that, find your passion, etc., yada yada, I think the most important thing that, I mean, the better term I think people should be using is that, that find your flow. Do what you love, because the more you do of what you love, you actually get better at it. Like, people will come to you and they will say, "Oh, how do you do that?" And then you realize that you are probably better than a lot of other people in what you do, in what you practice. Like, for example, if I have to give an example from my personal life, I can say that, ever since childhood, actually, I have always been fond of encyclopedias. And even when I look at the world today as well, I also always, tend to look at it from that encyclopedic sense. Like, for example, trying to know about new cultures, trying to know about new places and stuff like that. That has been my sort of key thing of fascination. I've always been uh, fascinated by how encyclopedias are designed. I've always had encyclopedias. I think when I was probably about five or so, there was this Disney set which was gifted by my father to my brother, elder brother, and me, and that was like the first encyclopedic content that I got, and that is why I guess I never really felt that when the internet when I started using the internet, didn't feel like that. Oh, of course, I mean the internet has way more information than any book can give to you at one single time, but because I'd always been reading things, my we were subscribers. My family was a subscriber to the Telegraph, which primarily gets published uh, from Kolkata or Calcutta. But there was a northeastern edition which used to be published from Guwahati and later from Jorhat. So we were subscribers of that. We used to get it daily, and the good thing was that there was a lot of it was very well written. It was a very witty newspaper. There was a lot of different content for all age groups and stuff, and I think a lot of things I was able to learn from that as well because we had regular newspapers, right? So what I'm basically trying to say, and also television set in very soon. I mean, I don't remember a time when I was not watching television because I mean, for Americans, of course, I mean, Americans started having television maybe in the 1950s onwards or so. They had public television, I guess. But for Indians, and especially in Assam, I think the onset happened pretty late. My parents say that from the 80s actually they started. It was in the 80s that they actually started to watch television, and I was born in '94, so I don't remember. I've always watched television, so television was a great source of information, and all this allowed me to sort of develop my worldview and to have an idea of how the world functions. We also watched movies, and then very soon the computers came in, the internet came in, and things took a very different turn. And today, at every given moment, we are surrounded by the internet, which is fantastic. Although I think I would have to say that I have become a bit of a victim of overexposure, like excessive information, where I'm collecting too much of information, but I'm not making use of it, or not creating something productive out of it, uh, or anything enriching out of it. So that is one issue probably that I have, and probably it's also a cause of concern because I do need to earn money. I do need to be productive, which probably I'm not being able to do right now. Well, besides that, yeah. So basically, the point that I was trying to make was that as I grew older, I became very good at quizzes. Whenever there are quizzes, I do win, or I score well. So I remember it was I think in 2015 when I was in my bachelor's, I I was like there was a quiz competition that was held, and uh, there were teams actually, like there were four teams. All the university, it was a small university, so the entire university was you used to get divided. I think it's still the same way it operates. So the university would get divided into four groups, and I was in one of the groups. So although it was a group thing, but except for I think one question, all the questions were answered by me, and and we won. You know, we won. Like that was, I mean, so people were very astonished, and people were very surprised, and people were amazed. Most importantly, I would say the word is amazed by the fact that and it was a huge margin. I believe there was a significant difference between me or between our team and what the rest other teams, how they perform. So this pretty much surprised everybody, and because of that, what happened was that people, uh, and because it was like I solely I made my team win, so it was that kind of a situation. So I remember that after that, you know on the street, I mean, when I was out, when it was all done, you know a girl came up to me, two girls, I think, I mean, my they were like my university mates. So they came up to me and they asked me that how do you practice, or how do you really get, I mean, even the year before also I was performing really well, although our team could secure only the second position, but we did answer a lot of the questions, which was really good, right? We answered a lot of the questions, so that allowed us to be pretty successful with what we did. So yeah, and basically in 2015, after that quiz, I mean, a girl came to me and she asked me that, why, how do you prepare? And I didn't have an answer because honestly, I didn't prepare for that quiz. I just told her that I just love collecting information. I just love reading about things, or I just know things. I mean, there are just all these multiple sources, and I'm just trying to learn things and trying to educate myself, and that is how I just know, right? So that was my answer to her. So I think that's the whole point. Like, you cannot really say that you cannot have this. I think even Dan Cole was, I think, saying something similar. I mean, a while ago I was watching one of his videos where he was talk. His video was titled "Focus is a Superpower," right? So that was his uh, t- title of the video, and he also said, I think, something similar when he said that you cannot always expect to have this entire manual, or something that oh, you're gonna prepare something. Maybe you have to go to the root of things. Like, for example, uh, what is the key sign of being educated? Of course, degrees are a proof of education, but real education is about you know looking at the source of information, or trying to learn something, and then trying to think about it, analyze it, implement it, practice on it. So that is how education happens, right? I mean, of course, degrees are the proof of it, but the degrees can maybe even be forged. But what cannot be forged is your analysis, your practice, your development of your skills through practice. These are facets that can never be replicated, that can never be faked, that can never be, like, it's within you, right? I mean, people can take away everything from you, but that remains with you. So I think it's important to, uh, you know, I think I have had too much of information. I mean, and most importantly, I think I've been living a very fearful life, I would say. And now is the time for me to sort of undo that and live with more sort of flow. I will not use any other word because every other word sort of makes me anxious or makes me tense. You know, clarity. If you talk about clarity, then it's like, oh, I don't have clarity. How do I get clarity? What books do I read? What should I be doing? What I should not be doing? But then the question is that I'm not gonna have it probably in any in a single day, right? I will not learn things in a single day, in a single moment. I'm not gonna be able to do that. Uh, then if someone asks me, oh, so what I'm basically trying to say is that I'm just trying to get into a flow state of mind. This is the kind of videos that I'm making today. Maybe after some days, or maybe at some point in time, maybe I'll make some way better videos. Maybe I'll be producing some professional videos, and I might be actually making some earning out of it. Um, and I hope that even what I'm saying here right now is fruitful for people, is something that people will listen to, and maybe it will have some help. I don't know how many people these videos will really reach to, but I think again that should not hinder my attempt at trying to express myself. Because the fact is that today, like before the internet, before platforms like YouTube existed, there was no way for people to even express themselves, right? Only their immediate surrounding, or maybe let's say there was some public forum or public platform. It is only then that they could express themselves, and in a very constructed, in a very limited sort of a manner. But today, with the internet, with the advent of the internet, you can actually go, you know, you can go a little, you know, you don't need to be so specific about things. You can mold things in your own way. So as far as being creative is concerned, I think uh, YouTube or similar platforms, maybe Facebook or maybe other all kinds of mediums, they allow for better flexibility. Okay. Mm, but yeah, I do understand that you would not expect to be making or earning a living out of it so soon. And I think the most important thing is that, see, the fact that life comes to an end. The fact that there's this temporality to life is the fact that we should is the reason why we should not be necessarily afraid, because the thing is that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, everything will kind of come to an end, right? I mean, more than anything, I mean, no matter how many houses you build, no matter how many places you visit, that one place and that one house that is essentially yours, your body, you know, that starts to age, that starts to decay, that is susceptible to diseases and God knows what, right? I mean, of course, we do know that there is a specific timeline to life, that you're born, you're a kid in your initial days, then you grow up, you become an adult, a young adult, and then you go on to become middle aged, and then you become old, and what is known as aging, or senescence, that starts to set in, and you basically die. But then there are also times when a lot of things can happen, like when it comes to a single individual. Of course, things are statistical, but when it comes to a single individual, you don't know which statistic you're a part of, right? What could happen to you, what might happen to you, because a lot of things happen to a lot of different people. So what can happen to you is absolutely uncertain, to be very honest. And and that it's important to have that realization that things are uncertain, because when you think that way, when you realize that aspect of life, that things are in fact uncertain, what will happen is that you will have a sense of immediacy, and you will work. Because, see, I think if there is any villain in our lives, then it's fear. Again, I mean, it's important to note that I mean, by fear, I'm just sort of clubbing a lot of things into fear, like anxiety and a lot of other things. But of course, I mean, see, there is a certain method of doing things. I cannot just jump off the building or stuff like that, because I know that it's gonna hurt me. But then there are certain things which are which are not harmful but could be harmful. But then like, for example, working, right? You might feel tired, but if you get the work done, it's a good thing, right? Or working out, let's say, for example, working out. Of course, working too much out can be harmful, can be detrimental to your health, but working enough out is actually important, because it strengthens your body, it strengthens your mind, it strengthens a lot of your health, precisely. So the point here is that it's about keeping the balance. It's about uh, and like I said, I mean, so you have to try to take the steps. You have to not be afraid to not take the steps. I think that is, like I said, I mean, you have to get into the flow of it all, right? You have to get into flow of it all. See, that is where I think see, no one, see, until and unless no matter how many people are protecting you, or no matter how many people are sort of looking after you, taking care of you, no matter what, you know if you are not conscious, or if you're like holding on to some narrow beliefs, or limited beliefs, or limited thought processes, or limited ideas, you know you will not feel free, or you will not feel liberated. Again, feeling free or feeling liberated itself should not become a goal. It should be a state of being, right? What I mean to say is that, you should feel that you're free now. Yeah. I should feel that today, as I'm talking here, as I'm making this video right now, I am no different from anybody else. I'm not different from the fastest person, the most healthiest person in the world. I'm not different from the richest person in the world. I'm not from the most powerful or whatever, right? I am no different from any person out there. Because the truth of the matter is that there is no security, there is no finality, there is no perfection. So there is no, so don't seek it. And when you don't, once you stop seeking it, it is only then that you have more mental space and, to function, do things to focus on the present moment. Of course, we want to win. Of course, I want to win. I sometimes feel like, oh, I'm getting too old because I'm 28 now, and very soon it's already August. My birthday is in November, so it's just September, October, then November, and you know I will become 29 years old, right? I may not look like that, but I am going to become. I mean, somewhere I look younger, but again, I also have like graying beard and stuff. So yeah, I mean, but the thing is that whatever is gone is gone. Whatever my time is gone, it's gone. I cannot get it back. So all I can do is just look forward, and all I have for whatever I have, and that's the whole point. Like just play the game. You don't have to be afraid of anything. You don't have to be focused on the outcome. Just focus on the present. And if you're focused on the present, you will, to some extent, make it true.